To you, it may just be your 2 weeks off in the sun, but according to some, your annual holiday could help save the global economy. On Fast Track this week, we're in Abu Dhabi to ask some of the big names in travel if they really do have the answers to the world's money worries. We take to the cobbled streets of France for a historic cycle race known as the Hell of the North. And
find out where Portuguese and Chinese heritage come together. That's coming up on Insider Guide.
welcome to Fast Track. I'm Fiona Foster. Thanks for joining us, and I hope you'll stay with us for the next half hour to catch up on the very latest news from the world of travel. And that is a world that has seen massive growth over the past 10 years, from the expansion of low-cost airlines to the proliferation of online booking and review sites. Travel has just exploded, as has the amount of money it generates. But can that growth be sustained in the face of the global economic malaise? What's more, could it even be part of the solution to that problem? Rajan Datta has been to Abu Dhabi to meet some of the key players in travel and find out what they think.
Once the most powerful man in the world, Bill Clinton hasn't lost much of his star appeal. To a rapt audience at the World Travel and Tourism Conference recently, the former US president extolled the virtues of tourism in helping the recovery of one of his adopted causes, Haiti.
In the work that I do now in Haiti, it's been very important, and there are a substantial number of people in this audience, 4 or 5 of you who were part of our trade mission on tourism to Haiti back in June of last year.
At this conference, you've got some of the most influential people in tourism. Throw in a Hollywood actress and a former US president, and you've got power, glamour, and jet setting. An alluring cocktail, if there ever was one.
The bosses of big hotel chains, airline executives, tourism ministers all have a common goal: to generate more wealth the world over. These statistics support their optimism. In a global economy desperate for a quick fix, tourism has been a crucial driver of new wealth. According to the WTTC, travel and tourism accounts for 9% of global GDP and employs 1 in 11 people. Growth has been 3 to 4% over the last 30 years, far outpacing average economic growth, and it's predicted to grow by 4.5 to 5% over the next decade.
I believe we've only just started to scratch the surface on the African continent. We only get 5% of all inbound international tourists. We could do much better than that.
One reason for this confidence is the simple fact that countries like China and India are pumping out travellers by the million from their burgeoning ranks of the middle classes. It's estimated in 2012 a record 83 million tourists from China alone splashed out $100 billion on their travels, hoisting the Chinese above North Americans and Germans as the world's biggest spenders when they venture abroad.
There's a genuine belief here that travel and tourism can be a catalyst for change, alleviating global poverty, inequality, and even environmental damage. But then again, they all work in the business, so they would say that, wouldn't they?
I don't see that growth and sustainability are contradicting each other. It's not a zero-sum game at all. We can have growth and we can have sustainability and responsibility at the same time.
More, and then we'll capitalize on that as well, and that makes me crazy.
But there are some dissident voices. She's perhaps best remembered as a screen mermaid. But today, Daryl Hannah is a campaigning environmentalist, banging the drum about the perils of unchecked economic growth, like the overconsumption of water, or the displacement of whole communities to accommodate tourist attractions.
By the way, I don't believe in carbon offsets either.
And there is also the issue of developing countries in particular banking too much on tourism, and economic, political and social turmoil has spelt disaster for visitor numbers to the likes of Kenya, Greece and Egypt.
Great big multinational companies suddenly arrive in destinations, and do the local people get any sense of a share in that wealth? Unfortunately not. So there are all too many cases where the industry is failing to pick up that social and economic obligation to create shared value for people, for them, their businesses, for their shareholders, but also for local people, communities, the environment.
The Caribbean region has perhaps suffered most from this in the past, especially with their early introduction of all-inclusive resorts, and other tourism destinations today are wary of the pitfalls. Not that it's easy to lay down the rules.
We compete with other regions in the world. That's something that we must remember. We compete with Asia, we compete with Latin America, so we can't have policies that are uniquely different.
The mantra these days is sustainable tourism, but environmentalists say that term is much abused.
Far too many players in the industry are still just into this tokenism, still just going through the motions because they know they have to, that's what the world expects now, but they're not really putting their heart and soul into it.
Even in wealthy nations like the United Arab Emirates, it's recognised oil money cannot last forever, and tourism is seen as a safer long-term bet. But there are critics of this approach.
Here in Abu Dhabi, for instance, now they're building golf courses, and I'm thinking to myself, this is nearly bonkers, because every single gallon of water used to keep that golf course in the shape that golfers expect will come from the desalinated water supplies that Abu Dhabi depends on for every single drop of water used in this country.
Abu Dhabi is a success story, the Emirate is a success story, and the more they become conscious of their responsibility, the more they can perfect investing their resources into what is right and what is good.
Growth is unquestionably the aim for the tourism industry, and its lobbying until now has been all about removing barriers to that growth, like lifting visa restrictions and abolishing airport and tourism taxes. The safety clause is always this insistence on sustainability, but sustainable growth is in danger of becoming at best a platitude and at worst a contradiction in terms.
Rajan looking to the future of the travel and tourism industry. Hint, it may get very crowded. And do let us know your thoughts on that issue. Is it dangerous for countries to rely on tourism? Maybe your country's addicted to building hotels rather than factories, or perhaps you'd like to see more of that. Do let us know at our usual address, fasttrack@bbc.com, and we'll try and include your comments in a future programme. Time now, though, for a look at what else has been happening in the travel world this week. Here's Greg Mackenzie.
If you've got a trip planned to the Indian state of Goa, be warned that drinking alcohol on its beaches is now banned. Alcoholic drinks will still be served in hotels and licensed bar shacks, but must be drunk on the premises. Anyone found to be drinking elsewhere risks arrest. Tourism authorities hope this will stop people being injured by broken bottles.
El Cellar de Can Roca.
A restaurant in northeast Spain has been named the best in the world, knocking Nome in Copenhagen from the top spot, which it held for 3 years. El Cellar de Can Roca in Girona was voted #1 by a team of over 900 international experts. The restaurant is run by 3 brothers, and they hope the award will encourage food tourism in the area. If you're planning on sampling the cuisine, a reservation is essential, and you are advised to book well ahead of time. And commercial space travel is a step closer this week after Virgin's Galactic Spaceship 2 made its first powered flight, breaking the sound barrier over the Mojave Desert. No date has been set for the first flight into space, but more than 500 people have already put down deposits for one of the $200,000 tickets. Passengers who have already submitted deposits for the flight include actors Angelina Jolie, Tom Hanks and the British scientist Stephen Hawking.
Let's take a short break now, but when we return, Michelle Yana Chan will be here with her guide to what you should be checking out during the month of May.
Where to find the biggest telescope and the brightest skies. Find out more on Insider Guide.
And we'll be donning the old lycra shorts and taking to the cobbled streets of France for a true test of endurance.